Hello everyone and welcome once again to Get Indie Gaming. In today's video, we're carrying on with a weekly look into some of the best looking indie games coming out this week, beginning Monday 21st September all the way through to the 27th. Amongst the picks of this week, we have one of the most anticipated indie races of the year, a satirical look onto the darling world of valley-based tech startups, and a heartfelt story about love, letting go, and moving on. So what else have we in store for you today? Well, let's crack on with the rest of the video. First up, and in no real order of preference and briefly mentioned in the video's introduction, Going Under comes out on the 24th, with this one being a tongue-in-cheek look into the world of tech startups. Here you play as, perhaps naturally enough, an unpaid intern looking to gain valuable experience and hands-on networking FaceTime within the tech market in what also happens to be one of the best looking and most vibrant dungeon crawlers out over the course of 2020. Everything here is procedurally generated, where alongside the aforementioned business and soft skills, you'll find yourself upskilling your resume in terms of doing battle with monsters and ghouls who happen to be the cursed former employees of failed technology ventures. All in, well, this looks just like the right kind of silliness and the kind of game we'll pick up and play in short, sharp bursts. Up next, Against the Moon is looking all set to launch like Going Under on the 24th, with it offering some interesting gameplay mechanics within the roguelike deck building genre. There's been quite a few crackers in this genre over the past 18 or so months, with Against the Moon having a different approach, which might help set it apart, as in here, the deck building involves having cards that can evolve as you play along two separate paths. This means you should be able to adapt and change your strategy as you play in terms of responding to the strategy and play style of your opponent. The game also seems to have certain elements of the much-loved Slay the Spire, Hand of Fate and Talisman, so this could be one for everybody, with it having a gameplay mechanic that's easy to pick up and get on with for those looking for a more casual experience, all the way up to having enough scope and depth to offer hardcore deck building fans a decent and stern challenge. Either way, comparisons with the likes of Slay the Spire, one of our most loved games of recent time, feels somewhat lofty, and we'll be keen to see how Against the Moon matches up with it coming out on PC via Steam and GOG. Up next, and another game out on the 24th, we have Rip Them Off, a game in which you're able to embrace your inner sociopath corporate tendencies, all within a tower defense management game hybrid, which comes from the same folks who brought us the wonderfully and hugely underplayed Swim Out. We're really rather taken with the sound of this, and while we've yet to play it, the gorgeous looking design inspired by 1950s culture and the playoff between the management and tower defense elements seems beautifully implemented. The main idea is to build what are called interlocking mazes of shops and stores that are difficult for customers to leave, and in so doing, you can keep the cash registers ka-chinging away as you make your way up the commercial ladder by any means necessary. Ethics be damned. The implementation of a time control mechanic looks another fine asset to Rip Them Off, which drops on both iOS and PC via Steam. Coming up now and out in early access later this week, we have Gone Viral. Here you play as a gladiator forced to do battle within a prison arena to earn your freedom, all for the merriment and amusement of a baying audience. We recently spent an hour or so with the game's demo, which as we write this piece can still be downloaded by way of the game's Steam homepage. So far, well, everything about Gone Viral seems to stand up rather well, with its over-the-top mix of randomly generated roguelike elements, or within a third-person melee and shooter combat format. The progression systems, particularly within the weapons, already feel and play out rather solidly, with the team saying Gone Viral will be in early access for in the region of 12 or so months. Here they're going to add additional polish and another 50% or so additional content. We also note that in Gone Viral, the developers have implemented certain Twitch integrations, which means streamers and their audience will be able to get involved in the action, which should help push this one that little further forward. These integrations are becoming ever more popular and really suit these type of scrappy, fast-paced action titles. Again, this one also comes out on the 24th, and we'll be looking to get hold of this for what might be the first of a new series here on the channel, where we take a further look into the world that is the early access landscape. You can expect that video to drop around the first week of October. Coming out on the 22nd, Pendragon is a turn-based game set within the times of the Arthurian legends and comes from the same team who brought out the spell-binding Heaven's Gate. Rather than rekindle the same old tales about Arthur we've heard so many times over, Pendragon looks to tell the lesser-known side of the story where Camelot has fallen and Arthur is very much in decline. Now, we missed out on much of the development on this one, which is perhaps a shame as it's coming to the table, as it were, with some pretty high and lofty ambitions, described by the developers in certain interviews as an infinitely replayable Dark Ages epic. The game will offer up turn-based strategy where every move and decision you make in turn drives the narrative. This suggests that many multiple branching storylines will exist, and you'll be able to shift and twist the tale depending on, let's say your mood while you play it, and in which direction you plan to take. There's a really interesting premise going on here, and given Heaven's Vault was so special, this is yet another game for us to add to the not-so-small wishlist. Launching on the 25th and first shown a good few years ago, Bullet Age is a classy-looking 2D action platformer that also features elements you might more usually find within RPGs. While there's a single-player option, long-term fans of the channel will know we're more likely to play these sort of games in couch co-op, and we've got that option here. This hand-drawn world looks utterly fabulous, as does the enormous-looking bosses in what we're hoping will be an accessible and yet challenging overall experience. Bullet Age should be coming out to PC via Steam, with it also coming to the Switch. Zooming on with tons aplenty in this video, we have our most wanted indie racing game of the whole year with Art of Rally. Nope, that's not a typo, the game title really does use all lowercase lettering, and while that's all very wrong on one level, that's just how it is. Now honestly, this was probably the standout game we got to play nearly a year ago at the EGX event in London. It was tucked away somewhere on the show floor and yet had a steady stream of players over the course of the show, with it being a real joy to watch people walk away from it once they're done with the demo. It really was smiles all round, and we saw many people coming back for 2 or 3 more playthroughs, aside from the drop-dead gorgeous artwork. One of the real, classically, beautifully well-implemented things of this game, well, it's the physics. It's how the cars drive and how they handle. The same also feels true of the stick-like crowds you can see on screen, with them acting just like the fans did back in the 60s, 70s and 80s, when rally racing was huge. If you haven't seen this before, a quick look on YouTube with some caveats here and there, particularly around the era of the Group A, B and S series, will give you a fine overview of the sport's heyday. Now, if you didn't know, this all comes from the developer of Absolute Drift, with the developer having attended rally school and travelling extensively in a camper van across Europe and beyond in the making of this one, so as to really get a feel and an eye for the creation of the in-game terrain. With over 50 iconic rally cars to drive, 60 or more stages from Finland, Germany, Japan, Norway and more, Art of Rally could be one epic driving game, with it for now at least only coming out on Steam, although we suspect a console launch won't be too far behind. Up now, in the final game in this week's new launch rundown, we have When the Past Was Around, and in a week of what's full of beautiful looking new launches, its use of classic and stylish looking imagery, all within what we think is a wordless story, well, this could really be one of the better hidden gems of the latter part of the year. We've been following this one since the new year when we got to play the demo, and we're reasonably embarrassed to say this is the first time it's featured here on the channel. It tells a story about a 20-something lady called Edda, with it being a tidy point-and-click puzzler affair. If you liked Florence from a while back, well, this should be very much for you, with it telling a tale of love, loss and moving on. Like Florence, When the Past Was Around uses melody and sound to add yet further depth to the narrative, and again to labour the point, it's all looking and sounding utterly incredible. Now, we really do enjoy showcasing, let's call them these different looking and playing games, and it's a pleasure to have the opportunity to do so. When the Past Was Around comes to Steam on Tuesday, September 22nd. See anything you want to play this week or anything we missed, be sure to drop us a comment down below, and while you're here, click on that like button, and if you've not already, be sure to subscribe to the channel with all the notification bells turned on. We're uploading new content on average 3 times a week, and a subscription is the best way to stay up to date with all of our indie game coverage. As always, a huge thank you to our patrons, and we'll see you all again here soon for more indie game videos.